My name is Dr. Kenya Oscar Radoli, and rugby has been a massive part of my life. My rugby career started at St. Mary's School in Nairobi, Kenya. High school rugby wasn't enough, so I then joined the Kenya Harlequins. Success with the Queens got me selected to the Kenya national rugby team. I then left Kenya and joined Clarion University of Pennsylvania to further my education. While I was there, I played for the Clarion Taffers. After I graduated, I joined the Pittsburgh Harlequins, where my competitive rugby playing years ended because of a shoulder injury sustained during a Division I rugby game. Those days, the Affordable Healthcare Act never existed, so I couldn't afford the treatment required to fix and rehab my shoulder back to rugby fitness. Now, as one of the coaches at Carnegie Mellon University, one of the goals is to educate the players, parents, and the American community about the complex game of rugby. In this educational journey, I am joined by Allyn Freeman, the managing editor of rugby at United World Sports. United World Sports is a world-class sports and entertainment company that owns and operates significant sporting events in the United States. Among them include the HSBC7s International Rugby Sevens Tournament in Las Vegas, Nevada, the Penn Mutual Collegiate Rugby Championship in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the Collegiate Varsity Cup in Salt Lake City, Utah. Allyn, welcome to the Tembo Sound Show.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. What I wanted to do here on this interview is briefly talk about Las Vegas Sevens and the growth and the commercialization of rugby in the US. So let me start off by asking you this question. USA Sevens International Las Vegas Tournament, we all know, draws a wonderful national international crowd. Prior to Las Vegas, Nevada, this tournament was held in San Diego, California. Could you tell us how United World Sports got involved with hosting International USA Sevens Tournament and how the International Rugby Board, which has changed actually to World Rugby, got involved with you guys?
Well, the United States Rugby Organization, USA Rugby Org, applied for and received rights to run a international IRB Sevens tournament. And originally that was in the year 2004, and they conducted that in the Home Depot Stadium, which is now StubHub Center in Los Angeles. And they continued in 2005, but what happened is the weather turned very bad, very few people came, and USA Rugby lost a lot of money. And since it's not a very wealthy organization, and it had to decide that it could not continue to do it, and it put it out for bids. And we, United World Sports, which is owned by John Prusmack, decided to bid for it, and we received the rights to conduct the tournament. And World Rugby agreed because they were very keen on having a sevens tournament in the United States. So in the third year, 2006, we let it stay. We just bought it, and we let it stay in Los Angeles, and it attracted mediocre crowds of about 10,000 a day. Our plan, which succeeded, was to move it to San Diego into Petco Park, which was the San Diego Padres baseball stadium. So this rugby field sort of shoehorned in to a baseball diamond and really never looked as efficient as it might if it had been in a football stadium. So we were there in San Diego 3 years, but the tournament only grew slightly because what we found is, although San Diego is a lovely place, the first week in February, which is when the tournament was held, in the 6 days that we're there, that's 3 weekends of 2 days each, we had sun 3 days, cloudy 2 days, and drizzle 1 day. So it really never turned out to be as successful as we thought. And the other reality is that San Diego is not a destination. It has a lot of attractions, the best zoo in the world, beaches, Tijuana and Mexico. High Life is a short drive away, but and there was golf, there was Safari Park, there were a lot of elements that were interesting, but we only attracted sort of a rugby-centric crowd. And after 3 years, we had to look to assess whether we should stay in San Diego or move somewhere else. And right at the time that we were doing an analysis of other cities, we received an inquiry from the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas because the marketing director knew that our contract in San Diego was over, and he was president of the Las Vegas Blackjack rugby team. So initially we went, whoa, Las Vegas, well, that's not a place for rugby. But he prevailed, and we sent out a team to see what was available there. And what we found was that Las Vegas is one of the prime cities that is geared to attract tourism with monies, local monies, deals, both for airfare and for hotels. And so after a while, we looked, and the weather the first week of February, which when it was historically better than it would be in San Diego. So World Rugby said, well, okay, we'll give you a shot at it. And that was the first tournament then was in 2010. So this year will be the 8th time we've been in Las Vegas. And what has happened is that it's been an enormous success beyond anybody's wildest dreams, if I can use that cliche. Yeah. The teams love it. It's out of 10 cities on the circuit, on the HSBC Bank International 7 Circuit, it receives the third highest rating both for ambiance, both for tournament facilities, for food and entertainment. And as everybody knows, Las Vegas is a true destination. So the attendance increased geometrically and has continued to go up. In addition, we run a contiguous tournament of amateurs called the Las Vegas Invitational, or the LVI, and that originally started in San Diego as the San Diego Development Invitational. And this is for amateur boys and girls, college and clubs, 7s and 15s, including some other international teams that don't get to play inside the stadium. And this year we've already set a record. We have 275 amateur sides which play on two large areas that abut the Sam Boyd Stadium, which is the football stadium for the Las Vegas University. And so this has become very successful for us. Our TV ratings have increased geometrically, and many of the stars of this tournament played for the United States men in the recent Olympics. So that's the story. We'll be going back. This year it'll be March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We do a short tournament on Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday. And so that's the story of the most attended rugby tournament in the United States, the Las Vegas Sevens.
Fantastic. Now, I know you talked a little bit how you guys got to Las Vegas. One question I do have here is that very many USA fans keep speculating. Every year we're down there, everyone speculates, hey, this is the last year that this tournament is being held in Vegas. This is the last year. It's going to move to another city. But from what you've told us, it doesn't seem that way.
Absolutely not. We have, just let me put in some more information. World Rugby schedules these events on back-to-back weekends. So the tournament begins in Dubai and a week later they're playing in Cape Town, South Africa. A month later in January, or I guess it's February, they play first in Sydney, Australia, and a week later in Hamilton, New Zealand. So you can see there's some area
geographical
similarity.
Yeah.
And what's happened now is that once Las Vegas became so successful, the Canadian Rugby Federation bid for a spot, and this will be the third year that they'll have a tournament, sevens tournament in Vancouver, the week after ours. Just to finish up in April, you go back to Hong Kong, which is the granddaddy of all the sevens, that started in 1974, followed by Singapore, and it ends in London and Paris. Usually London is the last tournament at Twickenham, but this year, for scheduling purposes, Paris Sevens will be the last tournament. So we have really no other place to go, no other place that has the attraction, because what happens is that we generate a large crowd of people who just sort of casually interested in rugby, but they come to Las Vegas for the gambling, for the shows, for the food, for all the other scenic attractions, such as the Grand Canyon and other stuff. And we couldn't duplicate this in any other city in the United States. So we'll be in Las Vegas for as long as we own the tournament.
That's been put to rest. So for all our listeners who keep wondering, thank you, Allyn, for clarifying that. Now, one other question. Do you think by including Vancouver, has that taken away some numbers from those folks who are coming up from Canada?
That's a very good question. And originally there was some apprehension, but it hasn't proved true. And the reason for that is that the eastern part of Canada, the Toronto, the Montreal, the Quebec, the Ottawa, they still come to Las Vegas because it's a more interesting destination for them than to go to Vancouver. What we found is that the bulk of the attendance in Vancouver, which is the only roof stadium in the 10th Circuit, are all of the rugby fans in British Columbia, and also a lot of rugby fans from the Seattle, Tacoma, Washington area. So originally that was we thought we would lose, but they don't, because those Canadians still want to come to Las Vegas. In other words, although they're interested in rugby and interested in supporting the Vancouver event, we didn't lose any attendance because of the Vancouver insertion.
Okay, let me move on to the next question here, where as we continue to grow rugby from the grassroots here in the U.S., high school rugby, college in the U.S., what are some of the challenges you see transitioning that to a commercialization component of rugby?
That's the $24,000 or $24 million question. What's happened is that within the past 10 years, rugby has grown significantly within high schools, especially among girls. It's become a new sport. And so this is where the growth has come, because their clubs, which grew from the 60s on, have now saturated. You have clubs throughout every city and suburb in the United States, and mostly all colleges have it, and there's been a significant growth in women's colleges also. But the problem is, for a commercialization, is the fact that more students on the high school and college level are playing rugby doesn't translate to attendance at some of the big international test matches, or for them to take a break and come to Vegas or come to Philadelphia. So even though it's growing exponentially, it's still become very difficult for rugby to become a profitable sport within the United States. Now, what's happened is, some of your fans may know that a man started pro rugby, one man with millions of dollars, that ran 2 years ago in 5 cities in the United States, and it didn't continue after that. It never reached break even. He wasn't able to secure any television, and he generated some minor attendance in the 5 cities that it was played. Now coming back and starting in April is Major League Rugby, MLR, which again is a professional sport with the players played, and that will begin in 7 cities in the United States. But the difference is the league is owned individually, the teams are owned individually. So in Austin, a local group put the money up. In Glendale, a local group. So it's hoped that with this grassroots beginnings, that this league of 7, and they're all west of the Mississippi, will have a better chance. They've got local television. We just have to wait and see.
Right.
Just last week was announced that a New York team, which will really not be official until a year from now, is going to play some practice games against this. So this has been around for a long time. There have been various other attempts over the past 40 years to start professional rugby. We'll see whether this has legs and whether it'll go. We won't know until this first season is over.
When we talk about professionalism, are these teams also willing to be bringing some of the international players who are playing rugby abroad?
Well, that's also, I think what they've allowed is that each team will have a certain number of foreign players that are allowed to come. So you'll find that there will be some rugby players who have ended their careers in New Zealand or Australia or feel like coming to the United States. But there'll certainly be limits to the amount of foreign players that each of these sides can put out.
Okay. Allyn, thanks a lot for your time. This has been some good information here that I will share
anytime.
Yes.
Good luck to you and everybody else. Bye-bye.